Cotton Valley today. We're so excited to have Mayor Larry Chesser with us, and we're going to visit with him a little while today, and we are certainly glad that you're here. Mayor Chesser, good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, your history, and then we'll get into your bid for another term as mayor of Fort Payne.
Grew up in Fort Payne, born in Fort Payne, grew up in Fort Payne, lived there most of my life, went off to college to the University of Alabama, and then went to work with Bell Telephone Company for a short time thereafter. I moved back to Rainsville in '73, lived here for several years while my dad and I got started in the shop business in Fort Payne. I moved down there in the '80s to get closer to work,
To work.
and been in the shop business from that point the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
However, the NAFTA and CAFTA treaties pretty well put a quietus on the shop business, and it affected me just like it did everybody else. I ended up doing some work, contracting type work in the shop business in Guatemala, Honduras, California, several places for a few years, and pretty well got tired of the traveling situation,
Right.
so came back home.
Well, I knew a little bit about you when you lived in Rainsville. When I first came here, I moved in 1980 to here. And so tell us why you decided to get involved in political life. Because this is your first term, am I right?
It is. Never gave it any consideration earlier in my life. It just wasn't a thought. When I began to have time on my hands, so to speak, and look at the condition that the sock mills have put people in our city, I got to looking at the finances and things and decided that we could do better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I ran the first time. I ran against Bill Jordan and David Stout. David got into the race late, and when he came in, my support cut in half, and so I got knocked out the first round. But then next time, it was just me and Bill, and we went through the regular campaign, and I won by a slim margin. Since then, we've managed to accomplish a lot of things in Fort Payne. We've worked on the financial part of the city for the first 2 years. Basically, was just to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
We were spending over $1 million more a year than we were taking in.
Well, you can't do that very long,
Can't
can you?
continue that. And then the third year, we made a little progress and had a small surplus. We spent that building some splash pads and buying some equipment that we needed. And then this year, it looks like we're gonna have a surplus in excess of $450,000. That was done without cutting employees, cutting services. Everything has stayed level in that regard. I think there's still monies to be saved. Easiest way to handle financing is just cut your expenses.
Right.
And we've done that. We did, we just changed the fuel that we used in our vehicles.
Really?
$110,000 per year savings that will be from now on,
Wow.
every year. Of course, the price of the fuel being down low too helped.
Right.
But this is something we can depend on later on. We refinanced a bond that will save us $500,000 over the life of the bond. Did not increase the life, it lowered the payments.
Mm-hmm.
We had some industries that for some reason or other had dropped off of the sewer bill schedule
Mm-hmm.
and had not been billed for sewer for a good while.
Wow.
That was over $100,000. And I went to those businesses and we discussed the situation, and they voluntarily said, okay, we'll pay what we owe. And without getting anybody's feelings hurt and without putting pressure on people, and they all did.
Mhm.
And that was a big help. Several things. We found a water meter, for instance, at the wastewater treatment plant. That was $3,000 a month in error.
Oh, wow.
So we're saving $36,000 a year just by replacing that with a modern water meter.
Mm-hmm.
I found a gas meter that had been in service since the Forest Avenue School had been closed. And it's been closed well over 20 years.
Right.
And not a lot of money, but it's still, you know,
Yeah.
it just kind of galls you to come up with something like that. It's just
Somebody
money
let
thrown
that-
away.
Somebody let that ball drop.
Yeah,
And didn't
and
do
it's easy when you have hundreds, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very easy. So anyway, I think we're going in the right direction.
Well, tell me one thing that was surprising to you when you first became an elected official. You know, I experienced that in Rainsville. I've been on council soon to end my first term. There were several things in my mind as a regular citizen I thought was one way, but once you get into elected office, there's all kinds of rules and regulations and responsibilities that you better follow and do it correctly. And people don't understand that. Well, why don't you just do this and why don't you just do that? But there's lots of things that were surprising to me. So I'm just curious what you're most surprised about when you first became elected.
Well, I've been in business all my life. I've had some sort of business going. Government, you can talk about running like a business, and you have to,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't.
That's right.
Governmental accounting is nothing like business accounting. Governmental accounting has so many ins and outs and loopholes. They don't want you to understand what's really going on.
Sometimes it does seem that
It
way.
is that
It
way.
really
I
does.
firmly convinced that whoever sat down and wrote these rules up were doing it for their own benefit, not for anybody else. But that's nationwide.
Yeah.
And we have to live with that. People call me and they think that as mayor, I can get anything done I want done.
Mm-hmm.
They call me about school buses. Well, I don't have anything to do with school system, period. It's separate, you know.
Right.
They call me about the power. It's separate. Gas, any of that, you know. Or somebody will say, I've got a problem on my driveway, you know, and it needs fixed. Well, we don't fix driveways unless we tear them up. Now,
Right.
we have torn some up
Yeah, yeah.
with our garbage trucks backing around, and,
Yeah.
you know, and we fix those. We don't repave the whole driveway, but we'll fix
Fix
what we
what you
tore
mess
up,
up.
you know.
Mhm.
Or doing work on private property. I've got a bunch of trees that I need cut. Well, you can't do that, you know. Or they'll call and say, you come out here and you cut a tree and you cut all the limbs off of one side. Why didn't you just trim them all the way around? Well, it wasn't me in the first place. It was power company, you know. So you run into all kind of stuff. The first call I got, and absolutely true, when I got into office was from a lady at Walmart. She was a greeter. And she was in tears, literally. I mean, you know, this lady was very upset. And I finally got her calmed down enough, and I said, well, how can I help you? Well, me and my husband have been married for 40 some odd years, and he wants a divorce. And I don't want one. Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
I asked her, well, why'd you call me? Well, I didn't know who else to call.
Well, at least she feels like she could call you.
Yeah, she did. And we talked for a while, and I gave her the name and the number of a good lawyer. And I said, lady, you better go see a lawyer.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think she did. I think she did.
Well, you know, sometimes the truth is a lot stranger than fiction any day. Little things we experience. Well, what are you most proud of in your term? I know you mentioned several things before you accomplished, but if you could hang your hat on one thing, or maybe two things that you're so proud you were able to accomplish, what would that be?
Well, I would say our organization, we have put the right people in the right jobs, given them the right employees, and let them run their job.
Mhm.
The harmony within our group, within our various departments, there's not any of this yang back and forth. Hey, you supposed to do that? No, you supposed to. They just do it.
Yeah.
Just go on and do it. When we have a storm, we've had a tornado, we've had windstorms, we've had floods, we've had snows. We don't call people; they come to work.
Yeah.
They just automatically come in. When we had radio problems when we had a tornado one time, nobody could communicate on their cell phones, but they managed to get the job done. And I'm very proud of our employees. I'm extremely proud of our department heads. We've added Jessica Moses as treasurer.
Mhm.
We've added Tim Williams as Public Works Director, and Don Fisher as Fire Chief. Those two blended in with the ones we already had
Mhm.
makes a very strong organization. And it takes a world of load off of me when I can depend on other people to
Do
do
a
what
job.
needs to be done. We try to treat people right, we try to treat them respectfully and the way we would like to be treated. We answer all of our phone calls, and I say we, I mean the department heads, whoever gets the calls. We return our messages, in other words, and we follow up on stuff. And once somebody makes a complaint or has a problem, it's very rare that problem ever comes up again. We settle it, it's over with, we go to something else. That's made the most, without that, you just can't have a good government. You've got to have government that's willing to work with one another. We work very well with the other utilities, the gas, water and power, a school system. It makes it so much easier than where you cannot keep your thumb on everything that's being done. People try, but you can't do it.
Well, you can't micromanage every person in
No.
as many people as you employ. And you know, organization takes a good leader, and a good leader comes from the top. So I guess that would be a feather in your cap.
Well, I give everybody credit. It wasn't me, it wasn't the council, it wasn't the department heads, it's everybody working together. And I've been in management positions, whether for myself or other companies, all my adult life. I went to work with Bell I got a graduate degree in mechanical engineering, but I've never really done any except for myself.
Right.
But I did go to work with Bell Telephone Company right out of college in a management program, a new program that they had. They'd always promoted from within.
Right.
And they tried, I think it was 6 in the state of Alabama that were hired to go into management right out of college. Denny Mintz, that was right over here at Pleasant Hill, he was one of them,
Uh-huh.
and several folks that I knew. And I got indoctrinated real quick on how it is to work with people. Because you just can't be a strong arm and you go do this, you do that, and this
Yeah.
sort of thing. It doesn't work. And before I left the telephone company, I had 650 employees that worked for me. And it was a good experience. And I would probably stayed with them, but about every 2 years I got moved somewhere else and I was fixing to go to New York. And I didn't want to go to New York. I had no desire at all to
New
spend
York City?
New York City to spend 2 to 3 years
Right.
at Bell Labs. I just didn't want to do it. So I came back home.
Well, if you are elected, what are some future things you'd like to see come to Fort Payne? What are some plans that you have to make the city continue to grow and be better?
Well, Main Street program is going. The city's got to support that or it will fold up. I mean, the money's just not available from the local community to do that. So the
Right.
city's got to do that. We intend to do that. We've got some specific projects. The old hospital. It's been sitting there in ruins for 20 some odd years. I get calls all the time about that thing. Well, it's not ours, but it could easily be ours if we had the money to tear it down. It's
Right.
gonna cost $500,000 to tear it down.
Wow.
So we've tried to secure some sorts of grants. Grants aren't available. What we're doing now is we partner with FEMA, EPA, HUD, ADECA, and TARCOG to do a piecemeal process. We want to tear down everything except leave one area for a storm shelter. Part of it's built like a bomb shelter
Right.
anyway. and then part of it as a community center. That way we can get FEMA involved, EPA involved, and ADECA, and all of them to do their portion.
Mm-hmm.
The remaining grounds that are left will be made into a park and a playground for our housing authority, because that sits between two
Right. Mhm.
areas of housing. I have a meeting scheduled in Atlanta with TARCOG and EPA in September. And I'm very hopeful that something will come out of that. Another one is the old MAPCO station downtown. If you
Yeah,
drive through
yeah.
town, that old station is an
Mhm.
eyesore. We've been trying to get rid of that thing for years. We're close. And I really hope that we can follow through on that and get rid of that thing, because that will help the downtown look. Make a
Mhm.
nice parking lot out of it, give us some more parking for the cold and iron building.
Right.
all that. We haven't done anything upstairs in the cold and iron building, basically. And those were apartments back in the day. It would cost a pretty good penny to get the things back up as apartments. But we can go through there and divide it up into office space, or not necessarily office space, but classroom space, and have artists, authors, arts and crafts, a culture
Yeah.
type center.
Cultural center.
And with minimal expense. I mean, we do all this with our labor. People ask me, they say, why don't you contract this stuff out? Well, contractors gotta make a profit. We don't have to make a profit.
Right.
We do it as cheap as we can do it with our own people, and we've done that pretty well the whole time I've been in office. Highway 35, Airport Road,
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Road, don't line up.
Right.
They're offset. Turn lanes are a mess. Utilities are right at the point where tractor trailers can't get in and out. If there's a semi coming from Scottsboro, can't make a right turn going down to Ferguson. Has to go all the way to South Y, turn around, come
Oh,
back up
really?
and make a left-hand turn. Trucks coming out of Ferguson can't make a right-hand turn without getting real close to the power poles, and they've hit them several times, broke them the last time. And of course, the way the traffic jams come up during rush hours and what have you, you've got turn lanes on one side, not on the other side, and it's just backed up for a mile on either
Yeah.
way. Well, we got with ALDOT, got them over here. The director of ALDOT, John Cooper,
Mhm.
lives in Langston.
Right.
He comes to Fort Payne at least twice a month to eat at Cracker Barrel. He's well aware of that intersection.
That problem right there.
So we got him involved, and what we were trying to do was just widen part of Jordan Lane and piecemeal it, and he said, no. So we'll fix it. So
Really? That's
they
great.
have begun the engineering from the interstate to Walmart
Mhm.
that will involve some turn lanes and some pull-offs and new curbing, and move all of those utilities, which is gonna cost a fortune to move those
Oh,
utilities.
I'm sure.
So that the roads can be widened and the turn lanes put in, the signal lights done what they're supposed to. That's a long-term process. It's gonna be a lot of money,
Yeah.
a lot of money. But,
But how
you don't
much?
get started if you don't, you gotta try.
That's exactly right. And just imagine how much better that part of town will be
Oh.
when all that's completed.
Yeah, I mean, you go down there at 5 o'clock, it's there,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, starting about 3 till about 6 o'clock, it's very congested there.
Traffic in our town is really picking up. I mean, we're getting a lot of visitors, and,
Well, that
that's
was one
good.
thing I wanted to mention to you. I met with the director of tourism that's based right there,
Right, yeah.
and he came and talked with us. And what I was most amazed about is he worked with Kodak for years
Oh, yeah.
and actually came to this area to vacation. You know, we
Right.
go to the Gatlinburg or the
Yeah.
somewhere else, and we should look at what we have here. And so, what do you think are some of the hidden gems in the Fort Payne area that you think people need to know about, things going on that they need to come and participate in?
Well, of course, the scenery, the
Yeah.
canyon, the mountains, cooler temperatures, that's all positive. Third Saturday cruise-ins have just brought in thousands of people.
Mhm.
I don't, and it just keeps growing.
Right.
People are coming from out of state, from Georgia, Tennessee in particular, to visit those. Boom Days, of course, draws in people from all over the country, really.
Right.
Uh,
You got some big name groups coming to that this year. I
That's
saw
right.
that the other
yeah,
day.
we got some good, well-known names,
Yeah.
you know, that may be a little different than what we've done in the past.
Mhm.
We've always had good musicians, but maybe they weren't that well-known, you
Right.
know, so this will help in that situation. We have a program at the Coal and Iron Building now called Radio Visions that Russell Gully is doing, and he's bringing in jazz and blues musicians that on every other Thursday night. It draws 30 to 50 people, which pretty well fills the room up, and some very good talent. We just had an art exhibit there from Mark Caputa, who works at Orbit's Glass, and
That's a neat place to go visit.
yeah, he's I mean, it's amazing what kind of artwork he's done with the glass, and he put a show on the other day and had all these set up on stands, and I thought, boy, we had him sign a waiver. If something gets broke, it's not our fault, you know. But I could just see people in there bumping into these
Yeah.
tables and knocking these $3,000 and $4,000 pieces of glass off. We had about 150 people in that room.
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
Didn't break anything. I mean, there was a big crowd, biggest crowd I guess we've had for any single event at the Coal and Iron Building, and they came from a long way away as well. So we got things going. We've got, of course, the Depot Museum, the Hosiery Museum, the Opera House, the Cab Theater is being used very much more. Maury Roberts runs that theater, and he's booking it a lot more than it used to be booked. Just things are just going. I mean, we've got things kind of, you know how a snowball is, it just
Yeah.
keeps growing. Well, these
Yeah.
are just gradually growing and growing, and we want to keep it going that way.
Well, I know you are. I know you're very excited. Let me tell you ask one thing. With our nation and I guess I'll just say police shootings. You know, tell me how you feel about your emergency personnel, the police, the fire, the rescue, and how much they add to what you guys offer and serve your citizens there in Fort Payne.
We've got one of the safest cities in Alabama. We're rated 6 or 7, somewhere around in there, just depending on which poll you look at. We constantly stress with our officers, you know, to use some common sense, to do what's necessary. Don't pull that gun unless you plan on using it. And,
Right.
and these folks are showing restraint. We don't have those kind of problems that they've had in other cities, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. We've got a good police force. We've got a good fire department. Most of our firemen are EMTs, and they help on a lot more than just fires. I mean,
Right.
they probably go to, 15 to 20 accidents and things before they'll have a fire.
And people don't realize that kind of service that they offer.
That's
We do
right.
that here in Rainsville as well. They go on tons of calls, and they're not all fires.
No, there's somebody will, my mother stayed at Will's Valley Assisted Living until she died. And they were over there, once a week, you know, because somebody would have fail with their heart, or they'd have, and rather than, they get there before the ambulance does.
Right.
So they give them treatment, and most of our medics have been trained and are authorized in IVs and certain medications and heart medications.
Right.
We use defibrillators and the whole 9 yards. And I'm very well pleased with the way the fire and police department works.
Well, you have lots of things to offer. I saw where you're getting another chain restaurant, Applebee's, I think, was coming to town.
Applebee's bought the property, the corner of the lot there in front of the old Kmart organization. The group that took that on to redevelop that place did a terrific job. They did the same one in Scottsboro. as we
Okay,
did over
yes,
there. And they've, sold the corner right by the creek,
Yeah,
and it'd be the west corner, I guess it would be, to the Applebee's group. We have not got a date as to when they're coming. It was first said possibly this fall that they start construction, but we haven't gotten a firm date on that. We're working on another one that, is not settled by any means yet. We keep on these things continuously. We hired a firm several years ago called Retail Strategies. And the first year, it just seemed pretty stagnant. And the next year, it got a little better. The third year's a little better. But they're beginning to make some inroads. We just got Route 21 moved in. Of course, with the Dunhams, Badcocks, and Dollar Tree. Nutrition, Impact Nutrition's a little store on the corner
Yeah,
that's doing
yeah.
very well,
Mhm.
very well, health food type stuff.
now I also heard that one of the, hotels was about to do an expansion. Have you heard about that?
Hampton Inn plans on
Right.
adding,
I heard 28 rooms, does that sound right?
I've heard that, I've heard 40, I've heard 60.
I
It may
guess
be
we'll-
20,
I
I don't
guess,
know.
I guess we'll see when they get
When they
started.
do. Holiday Inn has just got, well, they're not totally through, but they did a remodeling process.
Okay,
The home office, I guess, gave them the option of adding some more rooms or fixing what they got. So
Yeah.
they decided to fix what they got, and that's a very good hotel. We had the Huddle House, that
Right.
moved in, that Brian Jett, our high school principal, is a part owner of that, along with Steve Sparks, a
Right.
girls basketball
Mhm.
coach, and that's a good local business.
well, Mayor Chester, we've got a few minutes left. If there's someone watching our show today or they want to go back and look at it, what could you say that would convince them that you're the man that needs to do this another term? What can you say to that viewer watching today?
Well, I would just say drive around town, look around. I remember what it was 4 years ago. We had over 100 houses for sale. We had well over 100 vacant businesses. We don't have near that now. We had one house under construction when I took office, one. We built 17 last year, have built 9 thus far this year,
Mhm.
and numerous remodeling permits and everything. Now, the economy has a lot to do with that.
Right.
Definitely a lot to do with it. But we get so much traffic off the interstates, and we pick up a lot of revenue that we wouldn't get, that y'all here don't get
right.
because of the interstate traffic. I've gotten where anytime I go out to eat or something, I look at the tag numbers and see.
See where they're from?
And they are from everywhere.
They are. They
And I
are.
think they'll do the same thing with Applebee's. Every time a restaurant comes in, everybody thinks, well, it's gonna hurt somebody, and it doesn't.
No, there's so much traffic on the
So
interstate.
much.
Well, Mayor Chester, we certainly appreciate you being with us today.
I thank you very much.
It's good to see you as
Thank you.
always. Thank you for watching Mountain Valley Today. Don't forget you can watch us on Farmers Telephone Channel 6. You can also listen to us on WFPA 1400 in Fort Payne. And as always, you can go to mountainvalleynewspaper.com and see any of our previous episodes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.